a surprise
Mm.
coming at you, directly from, I don't know, Lieutenant Governor's mansion, wherever he lives, up in Akron, Ohio, the sprawling palace that he has and shares with his lovely wife, Ellen. Coach, we appreciate you spending some time with us today. You've got a lot of ground to cover here because you've got your initiative, the Governor's Challenge that we want to talk about as well. But I did see you down on the field for the game talking to Mac Brown. You guys obviously had some battles back in the day, and just kind of your thoughts generally on what you saw in the horseshoe on Saturday.
Well, it's starting off with the atmosphere was fabulous. Sometimes it's hard to get that rolling on a noon game, but the fans were ready. They got up early and got prepared, and the atmosphere was great. Two young teams. Let's face it, they both lost a lot of players, and more importantly, they lost a lot of maturity. And so you had two young teams on the field fighting like mad. When you see these two teams in November, they'll probably look totally different. But it was a good win for us, and it's always good to have a battle that you come up with a win, and that was a good battle.
Yep. How do you consume football? Because like Bob and I, like I'm sitting in the stands and I'm talking to my kids, like explaining what they're doing on the back end that I know because Bob and I are familiar with the defense. And I'm looking at guys and I'm seeing what Texas is trying to do. And I'm just consuming it different now after having played and coached for so long. When you're there on the sideline, like how do you consume football in that type of environment and setting?
Well, the one thing I couldn't do is sit in the stands and talk to anybody. That much I know about myself. I was over at the Wisconsin-Purdue game, I think it was 2 years ago, whatever Luke's first year was. And I said, I will never sit in the stands ever again. And then when you're up in the booth, everyone wants to say, oh, why'd they do that? Or, hey, what do you think they'll do? It's like, well, so I like to stand by myself, just watch the game, just like you did when you were coaching, you were by yourself, focused in on it. And I just like to kind of feel it, when you don't know the players intimately, it's different because you don't have expectations and you're just kind of looking at what they do. But, it was a beautiful day and kids are playing hard and a little bit like most first games. It wasn't perfect, but now you got some film to teach from. And I just enjoyed, seeing some good athletes going at each other.
Coach, you're an offensive guy, and offensive guys inherently usually like to score a lot of points. That was Ryan's background as well. And I think at some point, a lot of coaches make that transition where I'm not just the coach of the offense, I'm coaching the entirety of the team. And so while scoring 45 points is great, getting a win is better. And so how do we do that? And it feels like, Ryan, that transition has kind of fully happened for him where you can be satisfied with a defensive performance where your offense was efficient, mistake-free, opportunistic offense, coach, relentless defense, superior special units, and being able to kind of embrace that as opposed to maybe feeling the need to go out and just score a lot of points every game.
Well, and your team as you're going along. There are times when you say, you know what, these other guys were playing, they're probably going to score some points. And so, you've got to look at things differently. But complementary football is what it's all about. Your offense's number one job is never put your defense in a bad position. And, defensively, you just got to keep coming at them. And what I thought as I watched that game was that, football's the game of pressure and you're either applying it or you're reacting to it. And I thought our defense did a good job of applying pressure in terms of how they were lining up, the confusion, the hesitation. I thought they did a good job at that. I don't think Texas did a very good job of applying offensive pressure on our defense. They just kind of lined up the same way every time and let us disguise. And so I'm sure there'll be a lot of people, looking at the film saying, hey, what could we have done better? But, anytime number 4 is out there, there's pressure on that defense because that guy is amazing.
Yep. Now, so a lot of good takeaways, a lot of good film. Guys are in there celebrating the wins, right? Celebrating the being able to see the culture and the training and the practice on film as a team, and you always did that for us, which I love because we silo ourselves sometimes to linebacker or defensive play, but you also got to see the guys on the offense or special teams spilling it. Now you're going into a Grambling week. What do you say to a younger team, but coming off of a big win, beating the number one team at home? Now you're going into a Grambling week. Like what do you say to your teams coming off of those highs, and especially now that you mentioned that they're a younger team?
I think what you try to be as consistent as you can. We used to always tell our coaches, you better grade the film the same way, whether we won the game or lost. You can't be all happy because we won and relax your standards, nor if we lost the game, you can't all of a sudden turn into some ogre that you never were throughout how the kids known you. Well, the same is true with opponents. You have to go through your practice and everything else with the same expectations, knowing it's a little harder for the players from a standpoint of it's not difficult to get ready to be focused against Texas, but will it be harder against Grambling? Yes. And that's just something you got to know. But you try to be consistent, but the stretch of the next couple games until the conference starts is a hard stretch. I mean, you just have to know that going in, but I don't think you change who you are as a coach, and really what you're counting on is your leaders. If your leaders are setting the standard, then you got a chance.
Absolutely. Before we start getting into some of your initiative, you've got coaches out there all over the place. You talked about Coach Fickle, obviously getting a big win over in Wisconsin, a guy who, I'm so incredibly impressed with how he's matured in his coaching career. But you see these guys, Tress, and when they're an intern or a coaching assistant in college, they're setting up bags. And then you see them on Thursday night beating the number 25 team in the country, beating the brakes off of them with Alex Golish at the South Florida Bulls. Just what he's been able to do down there and taking a program in a unique part of the country that doesn't even have their own stadium and being able to kind of morph that into something where they've got a ton of momentum going.
Well, they're building a new stadium.
Yeah,
and it's going to be beautiful. And Tampa is a great place to be a football coach. There's a bunch of football players within about 3 hours of that place, and they've slowly grown that program. He came in and did a nice job, and he's got a plan in place. He's in a tough league. It's not going to be an easy road, but we've got a lot of those guys, that were student coaches, whether it's Pat Stewart now is over at Nebraska, or Kevin Megank is up there at the Bills, or John Stryker is Vrabel's number one guy, there at the Patriots. Those guys all started as student coaches, taking classes, getting paid zero. I don't even know if they went to class because they were in the Woody 18 hours a day. But there's guys all over the place doing that, and it just goes to show you, if you're willing to roll your sleeves up and do whatever is needed and bust your rear end, good things can happen as long as you get around good people. And they were fortunate to latch on with good people. Scott Sika's up there as like the assistant general manager of the Lions, and it's fun to watch those guys beyond your normal staff guys that progress.
Yeah, and I just want to make a statement because we want to get in this initiative, but I just hope everybody out there knows and appreciates this about our lieutenant governor and our former coach. But Flex there, Golick, you had Marcus had a really tough game in Miami.
Yep.
All the people that you mentioned, all the people that are already on Ohio State staff that you coached, you still make time for them, and you always reach out to them, even former guys like us. And that's what he is. That's what he's about. So, Bob, I just want to make that statement clear because you're always about the people and you're still investing them long after they left Ohio State. But, Bob, let's get in this initiative because it's really special.
Well, he's the guy to talk about it, and wanted to bring fitness back in a big way. And this hit me close, Coach. I mean, both of my parents were phys ed teachers. My mother-in-law also was a phys ed teacher, and wanting to get kids up off the couch, get them out of the machines and into the three-dimensional world. You got a bunch of your former players helping you out. Talk a little bit about what we're trying to do in the great state of Ohio.
Well, it's really, I have to give all credit to the governor, because when he told me he wanted me to be the lieutenant governor, I said, I don't even know what the lieutenant governor does. And he said, whatever I tell you to do. And I said, okay. And he said, one of the things is I want to get a fitness initiative. So we went to work on it, and we met with a lot of people, Mike DeAndrea, because of the T3 things he had, the Ohio Association of Health and Phys Ed Directors, blah, blah, blah. And we settled in on 4th through 8th graders. We thought this would be a good transformative spot, and that we wanted to make sure it was there for everyone, whether you're in a wheelchair. We had a guy in one of the assemblies last week. He was in his wheelchair doing dips out in front of the entire school. I mean, it was like, but so we wanted this to be available wherever you are in your fitness level, whatever degree that interests you or not. And we're also going to make sure not only do we get you moving in a bronze, then a silver, then a gold medal level. That was Teddy Ginn's idea, to have those 3 levels. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about rest. We're going to talk about all of the things and just progressing as we go. And I think we're in the neighborhood of 175,000 kids signed up right now, 650 or 60 schools. I think people still have until this coming Monday. They can sneak in. They won't get a printed workbook because we only printed 165,000 of them, but they can go and get those online. And it was great to see all the guys demonstrating. Our YouTube channel will be up pretty soon, and you'll see Bobby Carpenter up there, and Schlegs, and Michael Adams doing yoga, and you'll see some former lady student athletes, and this thing will keep growing. I want to get guys that played for us at YSU. I was talking to the head coach at Toledo. He wants to get his guys involved. We're going to get guys from all over the state, and it's going to be about the Buckeyes being in the best condition of any state in the union.
I love it. And that, the good thing too is you're meeting them where they are. You're making it fun. You're making it engagement. There's resources of how deep they want to go with the rabbit hole. Big thing is getting the parents involved and celebrating their kids and what they're doing, because they're trying to make a lifestyle change. How do you get the parents involved? But it's regardless of where you are in your fitness journey, let's get on the fitness journey, and then let's continue to get better. And I love that Teddy threw that in there, because that's how you do it. You motivate people by giving them, aspirational living, and let's go get there.
You guys would have loved watching Teddy again we went 9 cities in 3.5 days. And, Teddy's kind of quiet and so forth. Yeah. By the end of time, I mean, you should have seen how he grew. And, we would play the highlight of him running that punt back against Michigan in 2004. And, it was up on these big screens, in their gymnasiums or their auditorium. And they're cheering like it was live. They thought they're 4th graders. They thought that was live TV. Then they got to see Teddy again, and just to see how he will really embrace this and get a bunch of you guys and a bunch of ladies involved and trying to make a difference.
So, Coach, one of the added benefits and elements of this is, it's important to be physically fit, but then how that transitions also to the academic side and just kind of the holistic approach. And I know that there's studies, and I'm sure everybody has researched that, but could you talk maybe a little bit about that, just as being, the triangle that Schlegs and I will talk about, the rest, the diet, and obviously the exercise, but then how that pours into your ability on the other side, on the academic end, to maybe be a higher achiever there with maybe increased levels of fitness.
Oh, no question. In fact, the thing we're talking to these young kids about is that, this is going to, A, make you feel better physically. B, it's going to help you be a better student. C, your behavior in the classroom will be impacted. You'll be a better friend. You'll be a better sibling. You'll be a better son or daughter. If you feel better, you perform better. And we want you to feel better. So you got to give us a chance to give us a try, and you'll see the difference it makes in your life when you feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that I always feel better when I work out. It allows me to lock in to do the rest of my day. And it's vital that they get that. And the cool thing is that you're teaching them that they can do these things wherever. Yeah. That's the point. And you're showing them accountability with their teammates, classmates, and how workouts are better when you have a partner and you bring somebody along. Like you always had guys. Okay, you're just not here by yourself. You got to bring somebody along with you to hold them accountable. But that's what we're trying to do in our culture and the brotherhood that is Ohio State. What has been some of the most impactful things that you have seen as you started this through the educator's lens of why this is important?
You know, it's interesting just being in those 9 schools with, 500 or 600 people in the assemblies and whatnot, and then to hear the kids' comments. Probably the thing that hit me the most was they were so proud that we came to their school, and all of a sudden they felt important. And so just making sure that all these folks, and that's why we want to get out to so many of these schools. We're going to try to get to all 500 and some between the group of us. So I think that was number one, is to they felt that we care, and we do. I think the second one was even these young kids saying, you know what, I guess I realize I need to be more active. I can't wait. I'm going to go all the way to gold medal. It was fun hearing those. I remember one kid on an interview, it was at the Stream School in the inner city of Cleveland. He was saying, you know what, my diet's trash. I'm going to start eating better. I mean, they're just real, when you're in 6th grade. And so, just like anything else, you get what you emphasize, right?
Yep. You get what you
Absolutely,
emphasize.
Coach. One more quick one before we get you out of here. I'm always a big proponent, and my wife yells at me for, my relentless desire to kind of exercise.
I've never heard Courtney yell at you once. She talks politely, but go ahead.
She does. But I don't like criticism, Coach. I like a generation of affirmation. I just want affirmed in all of my beliefs all the time. So I work out, and I go, part of it is, they go, why do you do this? I go, it's the only thing that clears my mind and clears my head. Yeah. And Ryan Day goes and plays tennis and plays really hard. Yeah. What was did you have a release or something you could do physically active to kind of decompress when you were coaching?
Well, I'd like to get my workout in early in the morning before everyone got there, because, I had a lot to do. So workout, then quiet time, and then I'm ready for 18 hours.
I love it.
I love it.
Love it, Coach. We appreciate the time. I'm excited. I know everybody's pumped about the initiative. You've got about another year and a half, year and 3/4. So pedal to the metal.
Make a difference. Sprint through the finish line.
Exactly. That's tremendous. We appreciate it, Coach. Thank you so much. Get back to doing some real work, and the great job for all of our citizens in the state. And we thank you for coming on.
All right, man. Talk to you later. See you.
See you, Coach.
There he is, the legendary Jim Tressel.